Hey everybody, it's Melissa with Arizona Gateway, and I spent the last week visiting Indiana and Ohio. It was like 50 degrees, we're 90 here. Trust me, it felt cold, but today's market reminds me of the roller coasters we rode at Cedar Point. If you've never been to Cedar Point, those rides are intense and crazy, and that's the way I feel about today's real estate market. So if you want to hear what's going on, stay tuned. So it's October and we're sitting in the 90s. It's still hot here. And just a quick story, but when I started in real estate 11 years ago, my husband always asked me why I don't wear pencil skirts and heels like the realtors do on TV and all the home shows. And if you've ever been here, and the lock boxes are usually on the water pumps, and there's cactus and scorpions and black widows I've encountered, and it's 100 degrees outside and you're standing on your head trying to get a key out. You don't wear a skirt. So if you ever meet me in person, I'm probably gonna be in something business casual, but I like to keep it relaxed. So anyway, that was that. If you're here, you might like my videos on what it's like to live in Arizona, or you're wanting to see home tours, and that's all important, but so are the numbers. So this probably isn't the most exciting video, but stick with me, because if you are looking to buy or sell, those numbers and knowing your market are really important, and it can help us guide how we put our offers together or what we list the house for. So again, it's good to know what you are getting into. That said, I usually leave the local information towards the end, but just to throw the Gilbert information out there, we are at around 14,500 listings in our MLS today. That's up from around 11,000. So we are seeing that inventory start to increase, albeit slowly, but it is unusual for the seasonality. Usually October, November, December, we see a slowdown on homes going up on the market, but they do seem to be increasing. I think that some of that has to do with the last increase in mortgage rates, but we'll get to that in a moment. So in Gilbert, we have 353 active listings right now. The lowest one is starting at 320,000. Usually those lower 300s are gonna be condos or pretty small, like 1,000 to 1,200 square foot homes, and they go up from there. Our median price is at 670,000 with a square foot cost of $278 per square foot. And our average days on market has kind of stayed around that 51 mark, and that's from start to close. So from when it goes under contract to when the close of escrow is, it's about 50 days. Again, things are kind of a roller coaster right now. So interest rates creeped up even more. The media is spreading a lot of misinformation, a little fear out there. So we kind of have to mitigate that. And there are still a lot of unknowns that no realtor has a crystal ball, me included. So we kind of have to go with our facts and make our decisions accordingly. All right, first, just when buyers were accepting the 7% interest rate and getting back out there, hitting the ground running, we went up again. So now rates are sitting in a 7.5% to 8% range. And a lot of those buyers are starting to get cold feet again. So they're seeing that payment go up quite significantly, and they're starting to get worried that either they can't afford it, or in some cases, they just can't qualify for it anymore. So in that being said, the prices seem to be holding steady. Now, with the inventory creeping up, will prices start to decline a little bit? Well, the experts are saying that we should still see normal appreciation. So right now, that's not the case. Could it change? Maybe. We'll get into, I don't think it's gonna crash, but nobody has that crystal ball. So NAR is the only one that's projecting appreciation to have a slight decline. All the other powers that be right now, you can see it on the graph, are saying that they still think prices are going to appreciate. Now, we're not going to see 30% appreciation like we did over the last couple of years. We're gonna see 2 or 3% appreciation. So you're just gonna see that equity building slower. In my personal opinion, the unknowns are still whether or not households are maxing out credit cards and doing what they have to do to get by right now with the inflated costs that we're seeing. So that could roll over into, businesses laying off people, people's budgets being really tight, whether or not they're gonna buy a home. Foreclosures, we're gonna talk about in a moment, but whether or not they can still afford their homes. So Again, a lot of factors that are still, the experts aren't talking about them, but I'm thinking about them, and we just don't really know what the future is going to hold. All we can do is look at the numbers based on, week by week, month by month basis. So myth number one that I'm seeing in the media is that there are a ton of foreclosures. And right now, that's just not true. There are foreclosures, but in any market, good or bad, there are always foreclosures. So if you have to kind of look at the graph to put it in perspective, we are not seeing what we did in 2008, where people got into loans they couldn't afford or balloon payments, and then they came due and they had to walk away from those homes. So that's the good news. Can foreclosure status change and we might start seeing more if people can't afford, to keep up with inflation? Perhaps. I'm hoping most of those people would sell and downsize instead of just walk away and see those foreclosures. But it's really not as bad as some of the media outlets are making it out to be. So don't let that scare you there. Myth number two are that Airbnbs are going to crash the market. So there has been a huge shift in short-term rentals. I know in New York City, over 77% of short-term rentals are gone. A lot of people are seeing in Phoenix that there are so many short-term rentals that they can't keep them occupied. So if you've got one and it's sitting empty, it's not making you any money, and therefore a lot of those are considering selling them or unloading them so they don't have them. We saw a lot more restrictions come on with short-term rentals. So not only by the cities, but the HOAs are starting to put regulations in place where they're taxed differently, or that they have to be 30 days or more, which kind of takes off your Airbnb type program because a lot of those people are only coming in for a weekend or the week. But things are just changing because neighborhoods, your neighbors don't necessarily want the home next door to be turning over like a hotel. So short-term rentals, there's a lot going on with them, but are they going to crash the market? No. Are we going to see some go up for sale? Probably. And I think that that could be a really good thing because most of those are condos or very small homes. Not all of them are 6-bedroom homes, kind of that resort location. So if those condos go on the market, it just makes more affordable, probably in that $300,000 or $400,000 range, housing options for people to get into for entry-level homes. So I'm looking at that as positive. And then myth number three is that Wall Street investors are eating up all the homes and that's why prices are so high. And again, it's just not true. I hear that from people on the street, and 25% of investment homes are actually owned by like mom and pops, you and me. People who said, I have a home, I'm gonna buy 1 rental or 2 or 3. Anything under 9 rentals falls into that 25% category. So of those, iBuyers like Open Door and Zillow, they've kind of really slowed down because they were sitting on a lot of inventory. And so they've slowed down on their buying. But even with that, all of the investors are actually really low. I'm going to put the graph up here so you can see it. So again, just kind of another thing where the media is blowing it up. And it's not necessarily true. There are still a lot of homes that are being purchased just to live in. And then lastly, let's talk about equity again, because in my September video, we talked about this where especially your baby boomers and your Gen Xers are sitting on a ton of equity. They've had homes for quite a while. They've either paid them off or almost paid them off, and then the market has gained. So they have a ton of equity, and that gives them a lot of options. So many of those people are becoming empty nesters. The children have moved out and on. They're thinking about downsizing, and they can either buy a home in cash from the equity that they have, rolling that in, or they can downsize and just have a smaller payment so the interest rates aren't scaring them as much. And then lastly, some of them have more options for assisted living. So I'm dealing with this with a lot of my family, whether or not you should stay in a house, depending on what your age is and your health, versus going into some type of independent or assisted living category. Well, if you're sitting in $500,000 of equity, that gives you a lot more choices than if you've rented your whole life and you don't have anything to pay for those nursing home costs, which can be anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 a month. Like, it's crazy. So anyway, for those selling, if you're local and you're listening to me, buyers are still out there. It has slowed down a little bit over the last couple weeks. But if you would like a professional equity assessment, just reach out. I just have to get like your address and a little bit of information from you, and I can shoot that into your email. happy to do so. So have a great October. Hope you guys have a safe Halloween, and stay tuned until next month.